What's going on, everyone? Is another episode of Left Side Heavy, the podcast presented by Blue Wire Hustle. It's your boy, Jevin LaFave. On this episode, I'm bringing back my guy, Cory Letendre. He talked about his role at CK&W and kind of what he does as a producer. And it's kind of a cool little personal conversation that we had with each other. And then talked a little bit about his podcast. And then we talked about the unfortunate war that's happening between Ukraine and Russia and what Putin's doing and how unnecessary it is and how it affects sports and the sports world and hockey in general. And then we kind of go into another rant now that it's getting close to the trade deadline. We go into another rant about the Canucks and how they're poorly constructed and all that. It's you've heard it before and you're gonna hear it again. It is a very comedic rant, but very enlightening, and you kind of hear some good points raised by Cory and myself, and it was a good therapy session, I guess we can call it. And then we do a little cool segment. We do a under 23 draft, so 23 and under. You can draft players, and we're gonna build a top six, top four, and a goalie. Two teams, me versus Cory, and we're gonna go alternating picks. You can't pick the same player. And yeah, it was fun. Cory's Zoom unfortunately cut out, and I just told him like, hey, we were at the end. It was near the end of the episode anyway. All we had to do is plug our socials. So he just left. So in the end, you'll kind of see this message saying that the Zoom cut out and the audio won't necessarily the audio and visuals won't really make sense. But yeah, you'll see it, and kind of sucks. So it'll be kind of a weird ending, but yeah. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoy the listening and or watching wherever you are. Subscribe to the YouTube channel Left Side Heavy. Turn on the bell. Comment, like all the videos. I like interacting. And leave a rating and review wherever you get your podcasts. Left Side Heavy. Be sure to check it out and enjoy the show. Peace. It's episode 86 of Left Side Heavy, the podcast, presented by Blue Wire Hustle. It's your boy, Jevin LaFave. And I got my other boy, my guy, producer for CK
NW.
NW. Let's go,
Right.
baby.
Woo, news talk
Cory
all
Cory
day.
Letendre. How's it going, my guy?
Oh, pretty good, man. Just another day. I just watched the Canucks get thrashed
Thrash.
by the New Jersey Devils. So
Any word you say is an understatement.
yes, strangled, beaten, bruised, embarrassed, humiliated, shown the door.
Yeah.
Just overall not great, not great. Yaroslav Halak, what a game. Feel bad for the guy.
Yeah, it was not his night.
No.
That's a fact. But
Yeah,
how
that
you
went
been,
bad
man?
from the drop. I'm pretty good, just plugging along, doing my thing. Uh, Talking snacks with Carrie, once a week. That's fun. We're gonna bank some episodes coming up pretty quick because Andrea's having that baby.
That is
So
true.
so we're gonna try and slam like six, like just do six in a row and just be like, now we're okay. Something
Yeah.
happens, you go into labor, you can't do it for a week or two. Just throw these things out there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
we have some ideas rifling around up here. It's exciting time.
That's awesome, man. Why don't you tell folks what you do at CK and how you got that gig?
Well, I got that gig because I decided to be a big boy. I went to school. I got a diploma, and yeah, working over at CK, going in the door, working in broadcasting, producing shows. Booking guests, finding topics. I'm pretty great at it, actually. I think I might be the best. So pretty soon, to
That
be the
doesn't
best, I think I'm
surprise
going to
me.
run the station pretty quick. That's
No.
what it sounds like, at least.
It doesn't
Yeah.
surprise me that you're the best and thriving at what you do.
Thanks, man. That's sweet. And you know what? In another year and a half, you're going to be thriving at what you do,
Oh, honey. Thank you.
baby. You're welcome. I don't care what it is. You're great.
So do you produce for a few shows or just one? Is it a few time
Right
slots you
now, it's
do?
just one. Right now, it's just one. I'm filling in on the Mike Smith show
Oh,
from 9 to 12 on 980 CKNW. It's it's a grand time. I get up at like 6, and then we run the show till noon. I book the show for the next day, and then hopefully that takes as little time as possible. Sometimes you got that thing all booked up, ready to go by like 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and then your day is done. I'm like, okay, great, got the rest of the day, do
Yeah.
whatever. And then sometimes you're struggling to find a guest to fill like your last block. I'm like, I need someone for 10:30. Just looking on news websites trying to find a story that no one else is covering yet for the day or tomorrow. But it comes along pretty good. And then usually I get to just work 8 to 3 is when I'm not filling in, when I'm just kind of helping out other shows.
Yeah.
8 to 3, boom, 3 o'clock hits, you're done the day.
And is
I
that
long
just
for that.
when you're helping other shows? Is that just like helping booking guests, or just like
Yeah, exactly.
helping
That's it.
like produce
That's,
and stuff? Or
yeah, so that's what I got originally hired to do. Was just I come in, fire out some emails to everybody. You're like, hey, I'm around today, guys. I mean, I stopped firing those emails out after a while because I was there Monday to Friday, 8 to 3. At some point, the other producers should know that I'm there. So, you just kind of help out, and someone's like, hey, can you help me chase a few guests? Or hey, this is a topic. Can you try and find somebody for it? I'm like, yeah, sure. Then I just put on my internet sleuth hat and my glasses and a little pipe, and just working away, just trying to find somebody. Somebody, hey, you, and they're like, yeah. I'm like, you want to come on the radio for free? And they're like, sure, I'd love to. And you're like, great, sounds good. And then sometimes I can't find the person, and even then, it's no sweat because I'm just helping out.
yeah.
Like, hey, sorry, I tried to find that thing, couldn't get it. If you
And
need anything else, let me know.
so does it have to be like any sort of news story, or does it have to kind of correlate with the reputation of the show? Like if it's like a sports show, does it have to be a sports story? Or if it's like a general news show, it can just be anything?
So
Or if
they're
it's
all like news talk is like the whole 980. CKNW is all like news radio,
okay.
but not like news. So it's not like if you flip on like uh, AM 1130. That's like
Yeah.
news stories. Like, oh, this just happened. Oh, and now this has happened. Bum, 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 bum. We do like opinions, and we have guests on to talk about a subject and things like that. So it's not just like here's a news story. You have to like pick and choose stories. So if there was a fire,
Yeah.
like let's say the McDonald's down the street burned down, we're not going to talk about it because that's not good talk radio. There's not two sides to that story. No one's pro fire, right?
Yeah.
So like, someone's like, listen, I'm pretty sure it was good that that building burned down, so it doesn't happen. So
I
mostly,
love fires. So
yeah.
I love
I've been
McDonald's.
starting
I love,
fires
yeah.
for 30 years.
And we're just happy to have you on to talk about it.
Yeah, they're like, please don't use my last name.
Yeah.
I burned that McDonald's. If that was the case, we'd have them on. Like that's different.
Yeah.
We had the arsonist that was burning down McDonald's. 100%. Come on the show. But yeah, you have to pick and choose different stories for different hosts. So we have like
Okay.
one show, like the Jill Bennett show. She doesn't do sports. Won't
Yeah.
talk about sports stories unless it's like a big something crazy happened. But then some other guests will talk sports. Some have like semi-regular sports kind of segments where like a producer and the host will like both go on air and chat about something. And then some people love like Mike Smith, he loves politics and like crime. So anything that pops up where it seems like a cool thing for that, you're like, oh, Mike. So it's just kind of as we go along, it's learning. That's what I've been picking up over the last since I kind of started. What hosts like what, so you're not pitching something to a producer for a show that they're not going to use.
Yeah.
And then it'll get to the point where I'm at the point now, once I go back to doing that chase role, where I can just, if I see something that's kind of cool, I could just reach out to the person, I could do an interview, and I could just offer it to the host and be like, hey, you can play this if you want. So might start doing that soon. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
That's sweet. So Mike Smith thrives on just like debate topics, and does it have to be like extremely timely, or can it kind of be like, oh, this was a
It needs
heavy
to
like,
be pretty timely.
yeah, okay.
So
I
it's
thought
like,
so. I
yeah,
thought
like,
so.
so we keep up with the news, but we
Yeah.
won't we're not going to go talk about something that happened 2 weeks ago unless
Yeah.
something like kind of relevant has happened since.
Sure.
But he's the only show like during the daytime shows that he will have like a debate panel, and then he'll take calls a lot. He's really into that.
Okay.
Where like we'll do a segment, and then the next one is like, hey, how are you guys feeling about crime in Vancouver? Like, have you
Yeah.
noticed an uptick in crime? Blah 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 blah. And then we get people who call in, and then we have
Gotcha.
people who like message the message line, and then I put that together for the end of the show, like a montage.
Yeah.
There's a lot of crazy people out there.
So it's timely, newsworthy topics, but only if there's like two sides to every story so that you can get a conversation going.
Sometimes it doesn't necessarily have to be like two sides of the story. Like it doesn't have to be like, oh, I'm pro and I'm against, but it just has to be something that like you can talk about.
Okay.
Where like so like tomorrow we're talking about Russia, Ukraine a lot, obviously, you know. We're talking about a fugitive that was hiding in Puerto Rico that we found with like a crime reporter. We're talking about Russia being banned from all sports
Yeah.
tomorrow. You know, stuff like that. And then
Okay.
we'll have like we have the mayor coming on later this week, and we'll talk to
Okay.
politicians, and we talk to blah 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 blah. So
And as a producer for the show, do you, because I've listened to your spot once
mhm.
and you like chimed in for a few moments
That was
during
a
the
different
show?
show. That's the
Oh, it was,
shift.
oh,
Yeah,
okay.
that's from 10 at night till 2 in the morning.
Yeah.
That show is where the producer is like just a regular feature for the show.
Okay.
They
So
just come on, they're chatting
this one, do you
shit.
not do that as much?
No, for the Mike Smith show, I never go on. I
Okay.
like if I pitched something to Mike or it was like, oh, he wants to talk about something, I was like, oh, I've just experienced this. Like I can come on. Speaking of that, we have Ben who does the Jill Bennett show. He goes on a decent amount with Jill. And if something happens or comes on, and then we've got contributors and other guys who do stories or produce sometimes, and they'll jump on the air. And yeah, it happens. It just depends what's going on.
So are you active in the producer studio like area, or are you constantly adjusting audio levels and everything? So like what do you have to
No,
do
so
like
there's
in
a
the midst of a
tech
show?
producer for
Okay.
that. So for me, when the show's running, if everything's going smoothly, I don't do a ton once the show has started. I'm just clipping together audio for
Okay, so
at the
you
end of the
make
show.
clips.
Yeah. So like boom, he's like, oh, Justin Trudeau just made a speech. Can you grab a couple clips from it? And you go onto Twitter or something, you find it and you just put it into Burley and you just
Yeah.
like boom, listen, clip it, cut it, and then save it and put it in the file or whatever. So I'll do that, and then at the end of the show, I put together like a montage of people who have like called and left a message on different topics. And then the only other thing I do is if the show's booked, is sometimes like a guest doesn't call in, or we on the fly switch a guest, or we do something because something else has happened. And but other than that, yeah, we have a tech. I work from home, so I'm just like I'll eventually go back into the office,
Yeah.
but COVID stuff is working from home, so it's just our tech producer who's there, and he's the guy hitting switches and actually playing the audio that goes
Okay.
on air. Yeah.
Gotcha.
I'm just hanging out at my desk here
Nice.
all morning. I
Home
roll out
off.
of bed and I walk over here. It's a pretty long commute.
Do you get out often? What do you like to do outside of the work hours?
Work at Home Depot, you know, work the other job. That's a cool time.
Yeah.
Other than that, me and the missus, we like to go. We like to go travel around Vancouver here and try out different snacks and food spots.
Well, I mean,
Good time.
because you have to try different things for the snack
The pod.
like voyage.
Exactly. I can't let myself get rusty. I can't let this jaw get rusty, you know? I gotta keep that
Exactly. Gotta
lubed
keep
up.
those taste buds active, try
Oh,
different
for sure.
things. How's
Yeah.
that been going?
It's going pretty great. You know, next
Yeah.
week we had a 5-part thing where we're doing once a month. We were putting 8 cereals head to head to head to head in the brackets, and we're down to our final 4 cereals. And so
Ooh.
coming out next week, we're gonna crown the ultimate cereal. Yeah, it's pretty exciting. There was like 4 categories each time, same categories rolling over. There's like
Yeah.
chocolate, classics, healthy, and then like a variant where it's like cinnamon toast crunch churros. You know, so it's
Oh,
like
gotcha.
it's where they've like twisted and changed it. We got that.
Gotcha.
So we have our final 4. We've got Lucky Charms, we've got Oreo O's, we've got Cinnamon Toast Crunch, and we got Count Chocula are the 4 that made it into the final 4.
What's Can you say those ones again? Lucky Charms, Cinnamon Toast Crunch,
Oreo O's,
and
Count Chocula.
Which one's the healthy one?
Oh, none. So it was just no. It's in each like episode where we had 8 cereals. There was me and Carrie each had a chocolate, a healthy, an original, and a variant, and we just randomized the bracket.
Oh, so
And then
sometimes the healthy didn't make it out.
the healthy almost never won a round. I think it did one time because I put Raisin Bran as a healthy cereal, and then it beat the other healthy cereal. That's the only way they ever made it, is if
Yeah.
like they faced off against each other. And you're like, well, someone's getting into round 2, and then this
Yeah.
guy got a bye, just like shooting right to the finals.
Oh man. Yeah, it was
So, yeah,
nice.
so that's why there's not some other classics
Yeah.
in the finals. Because you're like, oh, we didn't tell each other what we were picking each time. So by the 4th rendition that we did last week, it was like, okay, what cereals haven't we picked yet that I can do? And it's like, yeah, to have like a backup in case the other person was using it.
So you had to
So,
come like fully loaded for each episode in case.
exactly.
Yeah.
We did. Yeah, we whittled 32 cereals down to 4, and next week we're going to argue about which one we think should ultimately win. I have a sneaking suspicion about what I think the odds on favorite will be. But
if I had to pick an order,
yeah, how would you go those?
Mind you, I've only been able to have one of these cereals since being diagnosed gluten.
Since the incident.
Yeah. Since the incident. Lucky Charms has been the only one I've been able to have. But if I had to pick like odds on favorite, I think Cinnamon Toast Crunch ranks 1.
Yeah.
I think Lucky Charms. See, I haven't had the Count Chocula or Oreo.
Oreos.
I haven't had them, but I get mixed opinions from other people on Lucky Charms. Like a lot of people.
I argued with Carrie a lot.
Yeah.
That was his pick last week. The other 3 that have made it were all ones that I brought to the table, and I argued with them pretty hard. It was Lucky Charms versus Chocolate Frosted Flakes last week in the finals for that week, and I let Lucky Charms go through. It's a classic, the marshmallows. It's the best marshmallow cereal.
Yeah, 100%.
Or like the best marshmallows are in that cereal.
Yeah.
But the cereal part of it sucks.
I wouldn't argue it sucks, but it's not amazing. Like, I don't think it's like anything to look forward to.
If you took the marshmallows out of that cereal, would you ever eat that cereal?
No, but I wouldn't say it's disgusting.
Well, no. I'm not saying like, but it's just like, it's not good. That's the argument I made to Carrie, where I'm like, listen, man, like everything, the only bad thing about the chocolate frosted flakes was that it gets soggy fast.
Yeah. The thing with Lucky Charms in the cereal part is that it's not like, if it was like just that, then like it's not bad. I could have a bowl of it, but I'm not going out of my way to get it.
Yeah, exactly. Have you had chocolate frosted flakes? Because you can eat frosted flakes, right?
I can. I just haven't had the chocolate.
And I don't know if the chocolate in it has gluten or anything.
I think if I can have frosted flakes, I can have chocolate frosted flakes. I would think.
Yeah. I will tell you that
they don't sound bad. They sound very tasty.
They make the best chocolate milk in your cereal afterwards. The whatever chocolate thing they put on that cereal, man, I'm telling you, it is like a gift from God. It is so good. It's the best chocolate, like the chocolate cereal with your chocolate milk at the end. It's the best one, hands down. So good, so chocolatey.
I'll give it a try. I'll go and see if I can scavenge myself a box of chocolate frosted flakes, and I'll give it a go.
I think they're regularly sold. You can find them.
Yeah. Okay.
In most and all grocery stores, you should be good.
Okay.
Yeah, they're wicked good.
All right. Yeah, I'll look forward to it. But yeah, if I had to pick the 4, I'd probably go Cinnamon Toast Crunch. I'll go Lucky Charms, Oreo O's, Count Chocula. But I haven't had the last 2, so I'm just like, from what I know.
They're great. Oreos are great.
They do sound good with the milk and the Oreo. Like, is it just a frosted?
It's like a chocolate
Oreo cracker,
like ring, with like little flecks of the white icing on the ring. They're pretty good, man. They're relatively new. Yeah. And they have climbed up into a top tier cereal for me. They've made it into the regular rotation of cereals that I buy, which is a lot.
Yeah. Now, the name of it, you can't really go in any other direction, but Oreos bothers
Pisses
me.
me off. It should just be Oreos, right?
I
Like
know.
capital O R E and then another capital O apostrophe S.
I know.
Oreos. And just, but no, Oreos. I don't, don't get me started. Bothered me from day one. Almost never bought them because I was like, dumb, stupid. Just call them Oreos.
Yeah, or even if you want to
OH
like,
if you want. Fuck.
or like if you want to get away from like, but it's still like them. I feel it wouldn't be as much like copyright. Just like throw an extra e, so make it Ori, and then.
But no, they're Oreo, like they're from Oreo.
Yeah, okay,
like it's
so
the
it's
same
still the
company,
same
so
brand.
they can call it
Okay,
Oreos
okay,
all
yeah.
they want.
That's why I wasn't sure if it was like.
Yeah, no, yeah, it's just some knockoff. Some guys like, if we just put some icing on this thing, we call them Oreo.
Yeah, but
nah, it's the same company, so it's like you can call them Oreos all you want.
Yeah,
I should write them a letter.
Seriously, they'd listen. Just say, "Hey,
Dear
I'm a producer for
Nabisco.
the show, and
Yeah.
I'm a host of this snack podcast, so my opinion is valid."
Listen, 6 people a week listen to this, and I gotta tell you, we're all pretty upset.
No, but from day one, I was like, I haven't had the cereal, but it makes me not want it because of the stupid name.
It's dumb, but it's great, delicious.
All right, I'll give that one another shot too, if I can have it. I don't think I can.
Yeah, get your house to buy it, and then just take a bite of somebody's.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's not enough gluten in a bite of cereal to take you down.
Nah, be fine.
Yeah. Unless you get hooked. Oh no.
Oh God.
I don't care. You just Ezekiel Elliott all the time.
Oh man. But let's get into some hockey talk. I got you for a little bit of a limited time this episode.
True, I'm a busy guy.
You're a busy guy, very popular. But if any of you guys have been paying attention to the news lately, Russia, or I guess Putin, has announced an invasion on Ukraine, and
commenced it.
Yeah, and it's I don't want to get too deep into like politics and stuff, but praise for Ukraine, because in no way should this be happening. It's complete and utter bullshit. And I'm going to try to hide as much what I'm saying because I don't want Putin coming after me now.
That's right. Going to do a deep fake on you and get you scrubbed from life.
But no, prayers to Ukraine. It's such a heartbreaking thing to see on the news, just like families filming from their window, just seeing like bombs and like missiles coming in and just exploding like
stuff
hundreds of meters from their house. Yeah. It's like, man, what was your reaction when you first like heard about this and just like what Ukraine's going through right now?
Just like the fact that everyone's like, the world just watched it like slowly happen. Whereas like he said he was going to do it, and it was like weeks leading up, months. There was like all these things where it's like, yeah, they're slowly encroaching. Oh, we're just doing some like war games, or we're doing some of this, some training. Oh, we're just doing this, and now it's just like flat out lies of like, oh, we're liberating them, and oh, we're doing. And it's like what? And it's so funny because it's like, yeah, there's countries that go to war constantly all around the world, but this is the first time since like World War II where you've seen like a European, like a country that lives in the same way that we do. Or like, you know what I mean? Where it's like, you look at Ukraine, you're like, there's nothing different about Ukraine than like, there's differences. Yeah. But I mean, like in the general sense of it, you're like, so people see it and they're like, oh my God, no. And you're like, I can't believe war is happening. You're like, first of all, there's war happening all over the planet all the time. Yeah. So let's not pretend like this is a new thing. But then at the same time, you're like, why are we letting this jackal do that? do it, right? Yeah. And I understand, you know, countries don't want to get into a whole thing where it's like, what are we going to go to war and start like a world war? Like, that's not good for anybody. And then fucking big boy over there, he's like, if you try to do anything, I'm going to blow it all up. And you're like, I think you're bluffing. So I don't know. We'll see if any of the sanction stuff works, and cutting off their banks, their stock market, their dollar, everything has crashed. So we'll see if everyone holds strong.
Their interest rates doubled overnight.
I saw like videos of like people going like lineups at like Russian banks like around the block as people are like freaking out and trying to like take money out because they're like, I don't know what's gonna happen. And then I saw today that the FIFA and the IIHF have come out and they're like, nope, no Russian competing for anything.
Yeah,
Like, great. I love it because Putin cares so much about sports. Like, there's such a heavy, like, oh, for Mother Russia, and like big into all that stuff. So not being able to like compete internationally, I know probably bothers him more than like shutting down banks, because he doesn't care if you shut down his bank. He's rich as hell. He does whatever he wants.
I feel
Riding
like
shirtless with a horse,
I
just
feel like
killing
he's
people.
slept on like the richest person in the world. Just I feel like he has way too much power
Right. So now
going
it's just
on.
like, but you take away like, oh no, sorry. It's like, I think this bothers him more. This bothers him more than everything else, and it makes me happy. So he can suck it. It's a terrible country. He's a terrible man, and I
Yeah.
hope that someone murders him. So
And
take it to the bank.
Cory said that I didn't.
It's
So
true, Cory. You can, yeah, quote me all you want. Bad guy, bad
no,
bad heart.
he's a terrible person, and I just feel for the people of Russia because they don't want this going on either. You see Russian players all over sports saying "No war, please." Like
Yeah.
they're
Oh man, it's so
obviously
brutal though. Sometimes
yeah
you're like, I saw that interview with Ovechkin,
yeah
and they're asking about it. He's like, like, I don't want war and blah blah. And they're like, well, you've supported Putin in the past. He's like, well, I'm not a politician, blah blah blah. And it's like, you are one of the most famous Russian athletes in the world. You don't have to like, and it's tough because like, what do you want him to say? Where it's like, if he disagrees, like he's got family there. He calls, it's like all of a sudden his family's mysteriously taken or murdered, and you're like all this stuff. So I
yeah
don't know. But then it's super badass when you see like Vladimir Klitschko, one of the greatest boxers ever in the world, who's the mayor of Kiev, and you're like, you're like just just strapped up with an AK, and you're like, solid.
yeah. The president of UK said, "I don't need a ride. I need ammunition," and he's like
Right?
on the front lines. It's like this
What a
guy.
badass.
This
He
is
used
a
to be a
leader.
comedian. Hilarious.
Yeah,
Like, I love the story. He's great.
that's
I wish nothing, yeah, obviously wish all the best for them.
yeah, of
But we'll
course.
see what happens.
But yeah, so to about the double IHF and FIFA and everything, the NHL condemns Russia's invasion and urges peaceful resolution. But effective immediately, the NHL is suspending their relationships with their business partners in Russia.
Mm-hmm.
They're pausing their Russian language social and digital media sites.
Yep.
They're discontinuing any consideration of Russia as a location for any future competitions involving the NHL.
Yep.
Hockey Canada has banned Russia and Belarus from non-IIHF competitions that are held in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
2023 World Junior Championship will no longer be held in Russia, and wide support is to remove them entirely from it. Russia and Belarus have also been banned from the international play through August 2022, so they won't be playing in the WJC this
Yep.
summer,
No juniors.
where it's being held out. And to quote Ovechkin, please no more war. It doesn't matter who's in the war, Russia, Ukraine, different countries, etc. We have to live in peace and in a great world. And obviously, like that's as much as he can say because, like you said, if he says any more, his family's there. So like
Yeah.
Putin's like,
Right.
oh buddy, you've been supporting me all this time and now you say this shit about me. I'm just gonna go take your wife and kids and just
Yeah.
like
I don't know. They had a heart attack.
yeah,
Crazy.
so weird. But no, I like pray for Ukraine. It's unbelievable and just sucks to see. But shout out their president because that guy's the absolute man, and
Hell yeah.
that's a leader. That's a leader, my dog.
Right. So on the
Yeah,
front lines, they're like, I'm not going anywhere.
yeah, exactly. That's fire.
You want
But
some? Come get some.
exactly. Other NHL news: the Stadium Series kicks off. 68,500 fans.
Woo.
Seventh largest in NHL history.
So many.
Tampa Bay comes out with a 3-2 win. Did you catch any of this?
I did not catch it. I saw a couple highlights, and you're like, yeah, great. That's great. Growing the game. Great for Tampa Bay. They're the best. They've been the best team in the league for the last 5 years. It's like, yeah, that's it. That's the best thing where it's like, I wonder. So it's like they've had a great reputation now for the last, like they won the cup way, way back in the early 2000s, right?
Yeah.
And then like dog shit for a while. And then for the last at least 5+ years, they've been a top half and or top tier or one of the best teams in the league, right? You're like, have they built enough of a fan base in Tampa Bay where it's like, if for whatever reason they were bad for the next like 3 years, like would would you still get 50,000 people to a stadium series game for them?
Yeah.
And it's like, I wonder, I don't know. I hope so. It'd be nice to think because you're like, there's a ton of people in Florida. And so hopefully, yeah, it's great for the game if they've built up that fan base. And now you just need the Panthers to do the same thing.
What did you think of the jerseys?
You know, I was neither here nor there for them.
Yeah.
It's hard now. There's so many, like, they do so many jersey renditions that come out, and their third jerseys and the color whatever jerseys and the reverse retro jerseys and the this that jersey and those jerseys. There's so many jerseys that I'm like, it has to be like something super cool for me to really like notice it. And
Fair
unless
enough.
it's bad, if it's terrible,
then
it's like, oh, what is this? Did a 5-year-old draw this?
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. How about you? Did you love them, hate them? Or you like me and you don't care anymore? Nothing matters.
I like Tampa's, but like you said, it's not any like crazy different than what I've seen before Tampa have. But I just thought theirs was clean, like the bolts going across, and I like the big jersey, big logo on the pants and stuff. I like the rendition of that jersey. The Smashville jerseys that Nashville have, wasn't a huge fan of them, but
the jersey itself,
they were
kind of
okay.
ugly.
Yeah,
but I like the Smashville thing. I think it's a fun, dumb thing to do.
Yeah.
They're like, whatever, it's a game. Why not?
Yeah, I thought like for a stadium jersey, that's okay, but if they're like our new like
third jersey, yeah, it's a bit much.
It's like that's not that.
It would be like if the Hurricanes did a stadium series, and instead of like Canes, it said Jerks.
Yeah.
Right, it'd be hilarious for like a one game thing. It's a fun little novelty jersey.
Exactly.
But then it's like that's it. But then there's some jerseys, as a quick throwaway here, that I wish like the Canucks just did their Black History Month jersey for like the warm up, like the all black. You saw it, right? With like
it was sweet.
It's a super sweet and slick looking jersey. I don't understand why for the stadium series, Tampa and Nashville can wear that jersey. But the Canucks, I don't know if it's an organizational decision or if it's like an NHL thing that's like, no, those are you can only wear them for like your warm-ups and you have to put on a different jersey. It's like, why couldn't the Canucks just play in that jersey? Or same for the Lunar New Year with the sweet tiger for the sea, right? Too. You're like, why couldn't they just wear that for a game?
Yeah.
Like, is this the Canucks decision or is it the NHL? I would imagine it's an NHL decision because
that's what I would think.
You would think the Canucks would be like, yeah, one more jersey to wear and then sell people this jersey.
I feel like it's the cleat thing in the NFL. Like Peyton Manning got fined because he wore all black cleats for Joe Namath, and he got fined. Or
no, I know, but it's like, well, why can they do it for the stadium series then?
Yeah,
right. No, it's such a weird. It's dumb. I hate that leagues have such weird rules about jerseys and like equipment. It's one of those things where it feels like it's just one of those like old white guy thing of like control, like power and control. We're like, nope. Board of Governors says no, and you're like, why? Owner's like, nope, you have to do it. You need to wear a suit and tie, and you have to have white shoes, and the helmet has to be this color, and your team can't wear different jerseys. Oh, your socks have to match. Like, who cares?
Yeah, you want to grow the game?
Yeah, right.
Let teams kind of have like wear their warm up jerseys.
Complaining about guys wearing cool like outfits to the rink.
Yeah,
and you're like, shut up.
I know.
Shut up.
Yeah.
Go die. Go get buried. Like, you're old and no one cares about you anymore. Well, I just think that's not how the game should be played. And you're like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Did you see Trevor Zegras with his lacrosse goal? Oh, back in my day, he'd get a stick to the head. And you're like, you weren't wearing helmets. Like, what do you know about the game anymore? Yeah. You skated slower than the slowest guy in the league.
Seriously.
Ryan Reeves would have been the fastest player on your team.
He would be a elite player in your day.
Ryan Reeves in the 70s would have been the best player in the league.
Yeah, he would have.
Yeah.
But what my dad wants to do with uniforms is he wants home teams to wear white so that you can see every other team's.
Yeah, like it used to be.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea because you always think about you only see blue and white when you go to a Canucks home game.
Mm-hmm.
How about you just have Canucks wear white and you get to see?
Yeah, I don't know why they changed it. It's the dumbest.
Yeah.
It's the dumbest like jersey thing the NHL has done. Like, what was the point of switching even? Like, at what point were teams like, and I get because like teams wanted to wear their third jerseys and like, also why can't it just be a decision between the two teams?
Yeah.
is someone getting confused when they go to the game? Like, well, the other team's in white. I thought they were the Canucks. Like, no, you didn't. You can see the crest, you can see the logo and the names.
Yeah.
So it's like, why couldn't it just be like, hey, you're Tampa and I'm Vancouver and you're coming to town, and we're like, hey, the home team gets to decide. We're like, we're gonna wear it, and you decide like before, obviously, the game. It's not like the day of. There's like, yeah, on this night we're gonna wear our third jersey, so you got to wear the white. And they're go, okay, ta-da! Like, why can't it just be that? Why can't it just be fluid? Who cares?
Yeah, it's
garbage.
It is a very good point that he brought up, and I would like it to see it take action and go back.
Yeah. I also want the Canucks to go to the black jersey with the skate logo. It's so good. It's so a great good. Dominant jersey.
It's so good.
Black, yellow, red, little orange. It looks great. Here we go. Folks, Jevon's walked away. He is, I'm assuming, grabbing a skate jersey. If he's not, this is going to be a weird. There he is. Look at that. Yeah. He's a beaut. Put the little burr. The old red rocket.
It's the best jersey.
I mean, he's the enemy now, but that's fine.
Yeah, that's true.
Russian.
Cut that part out.
Yeah.
But moving on.
Moving on up.
Leafs Red Wings 10-7 game. We got a football score.
And that's why the Toronto Maple Leafs will not win the Stanley Cup this year. You're like, how do you for
it was 6-2.
Teams have off nights, right? So I get it. But it's just one of those things you're like, that's classic Toronto Maple Leaf hockey. Like, yeah, you were up, like 6-1 or 6-2.
Yeah,
and
maybe been 7-2 as well. Yeah.
It's like, what is happening here? Insane. It's like their goaltending is spotty. Their defense is their team defense is spotty. It's like, yeah, you better hope that you can outscore your opponent. I know you have to outscore your opponents every game. You know what I mean? Like, you better hope that like you can put up 4 goals a game every game in the playoffs, because when it is crunch time, you're like, they'll get out of the first round maybe this year, but man, just embarrassing. Except a little bit not, because I think the Red Wings are going to be good soon. I trust Stevie Y.
Their rebuild has been on like fast forward.
Since, they did it properly.
Yeah, it's been like
not what the Canucks did. It's the opposite.
Yeah, that's true.
Hey, are we not doing well anymore? Yes. What should we do? Sell off all pieces. Okay, great. All right, and then we'll sign veterans to short-term deals, and then we'll trade them also at trade deadlines. Like, oh, get more picks. Like, yeah, and we've acquired all these picks, and then young players, and now look at our team. Now we're going to be able to compete for the playoffs next year or the year after. You're like, wow, that was only a couple of years. You're like, yes. It's a pretty simple formula. Like,
whereas
are you spending to the cap? What? No, we're a bad team. Why would we do that? That way we can take on other contracts from teams for better pieces. Oh, that makes sense.
Oh, yeah.
This garbage that we live with. This garbage. This garbage franchise.
Yeah.
Can't you believe that they've been a cap team this whole time. They have spent to the roof, and they've been terrible. And you have nothing to show for it except for a few good young players. The Canucks should have had by now an extra 2 first-round picks, 3 or 4 extra second-round picks, and a few extra third-round picks over the last 4, 5, 6 years. And instead, not only have they not had it, they haven't even had their own draft picks. And some of the trades, don't get me wrong, JT Miller, hindsight, you're like, yeah, it's a great trade. I would rather have JT Miller than what ended up being because that was the bubble year where they got that pick. So it was the 22nd overall pick. You're like, yeah, it didn't matter. But you're like, but why did we trade the 9th overall pick and a bunch of guys who would be expiring this year for OEL and Garland? You're like, well, Garland's pretty good. You're like, yeah, he's a top 6 forward who is on a decent contract. Great. But he's not we still suck.
Now we might trade him because teams are calling for him.
Yeah, because I don't know. If the Canucks go through this deadline, Jevon, and they don't really move anybody out, And somehow Aquilini is like, I think we should just really, we're close. We're a playoff bubble team. And then the Canucks eke in and get either the third spot in the Pacific and have to play the Knights or the Flames in a 7-game series, or they make a wild card and have to play the Avalanche, or just like, what is happening here?
Yeah.
They're going to lose. And it's just, I think we're going to make some moves. I have to assume that I still think they're trading JT Miller, because it's just like, the guy's going to make between $8.5 and $10 million on his next contract. The Canucks can't afford that because they're a cap team.
Yeah, I brought you on after they hired, or it was like right after they fired Benning,
Yeah.
and they hadn't quite hired Rutherford yet.
Mm-hmm.
And Aquilini said, he's like, we are a competitive team. We want to win. We spend to the cap. And I'm like, that's not a good thing.
Yeah.
You
It's not a
haven't,
cool thing to say. It's a great thing in an owner that he'll spend to the cap.
yeah, but
We're not Ottawa,
only when like the time is
right?
right. Like if the
We've been a
situation
bottom 10 team.
if the situation makes sense, spend to the cap. But if
We've spent all our money. What do we
we're
have? Tyler Myers.
the fact that we're saying like, hey, we're only 5 points out, we can make the playoffs. We're in the Pacific Division. We're the worst division in the league. And we're barely like, we might have a chance to make the
Right. Like, oh,
playoffs.
we could maybe take Edmonton's spot. And you're like, yeah, they don't have a goalie. You're like, and I know like you should never like apologize for having a good goalie. You're like, yeah, we got a great goalie, so he's going to help us win games. But he's what if you just take his numbers down a little, and you're like, yeah, if he didn't have a 928, whatever his save percentage is, you're like, if he just had like a 918, you're like, yeah, we're gonna lose more of these games. But he plays Demko's a brick wall, and you're like, so it's like the Canucks, like their defense. I think we started. It's just one of those things. You're like, if they
Tyler
don't,
Myers might be the worst player in the league. Did you watch him tonight?
a little bit. And then you know what the funny thing is? If Tyler Myers was making even $4 million a season, I wouldn't have a problem with the guy. And I don't have a problem with him for making that money. Good for him that he got that money. But you look and you're like, how did it take 8 years to fire that man, to fire Jim Benning? You're like,
Seriously.
who? Like, Quinn Hughes, great. Of course, you paid him a lot of money. You needed to. He's our best defenseman, and he is maybe our best player in the long run. You're like, okay. And then it's like, OEL. You're like, yeah, he's good right now. He has dried up offensively. He barely scores at all. And you're like, great. He's good defensively. He's what Alex Edler was to us at the end, except he's skating still better because he's younger. We're like, well, that's $7.5 million or something.
Yeah.
For the next like 5 years. Like, cool. Isn't he 30? You're like, yeah, he is. Like, okay. And then $6 million for Tyler Myers. You're like, okay. You're like, we've spent how much money on 3 players on defense? You're like, oh, maybe we have like solid young depth. You're like, well, no, we have Luke Shen, who's playing well for a league minimum guy, and Kyle Burrows, who looks good for a league minimum guy, and Travis Hamonic, who's a waste of $3 million, and Tucker Poolman, who's a waste of $2.5 million. And you're like, this is trash. We have trash. Half of their defense is bad. Like, should never be playing in a top 4, right? Luke Shen can come up in a pinch. Yeah, he's like a responsible, but he's a bottom pairing defenseman at this point in his career. And you're like, yeah, Travis Hamonic is a replacement level defenseman. Tucker Poolman's a replacement level defenseman. You're like, none of those guys should ever be in your top 4. So like, so who else should play in our top 4 then? You're like, we can't afford anybody. They can't afford anyone to play. You're like, okay, well, Besser's up this year. You're like, so if you don't re-sign Besser and you trade him for something else, you're probably taking some cap back in a player deal. And it's like, well, what's that player going to be? Better or worse? Do you have any players coming up in the minors anymore? You're like, no, we rushed all of them in because we had so many holes in the lineup that Niels Hoglander had to be rushed into the NHL. And he looked good for spurts as a rookie, but like you see now, it's like he could have used more time.
Yeah.
You could let him stew in the A and gotten better. Played 1 extra year in Europe, come over this year, play in the AHL, confidence, little things, tweak his game, call him up a little bit here. Next year he could have played. You're like, yeah, great. Podkolzin's the same thing. He looks like he's an NHLer, and so is Hoglander. Like they're both NHL caliber players. But it's like, if you weren't so bad at building a team, you wouldn't have to rush these young guys in, and you wouldn't look at the Canucks prospects and go, they're terrible. The Canucks have one of the worst prospect pools in the NHL, and they've been one of the worst teams for the last 6 years. How you couldn't, if I said to you, hey, look, you have a franchise in the future, you're like, cool, all right. Like, you're not very good. You're like, oh, okay. And you're like, but you've spent all your money on the cap. You're like, oh, okay, maybe I like took on bad contracts from other teams and then like acquired a lot of like draft capital and like young players. Like, oh no, you didn't. You just signed a lot of like veterans to like too much money for too long with no trade clauses. You're like, oh, but like, did we keep all of our picks? And like, because we finished so low, do we have like a lot of good young talent? You're like, no, you don't. You're like, how? How is that a thing?
The fact that we're willing to actually like hire people and they want to like come and be a part of this
Amazing.
team, it's
right?
hilarious.
Like Jim Rutherford's probably looking at it being like, if I can turn this around and win these losers a cup, I'm the greatest GM ever. Three teams he'll have won a cup with. You're like, that's pretty good.
Yeah, and this team is like the ultimate bad because, like you just said, we've been bad or like severely inconsistent. Our peak has been the last 8 total remaining teams in the league in a bubble year, when arguably 24 teams made the playoffs, not 16. So there's a chance that we shouldn't have even made the playoffs in the first place. And then we made the playoffs in like 2015.
Something like that. Bounced immediately.
Yeah, first round against Calgary. And then we finished in the bottom 10, 13 in the league like every year since. And we haven't had our last 2 first round picks. And we sent to the cap in almost every single year of the past 6 years.
All things being equal, if you had like the same owner, like the same willingness to spend to the cap, like on all teams, right? And it was just like you were a general manager and you had your pick of any of like the bad teams to take over. It's like, I would rather be Ottawa, right? They're like, yeah, be like, well, do they? It's like, yeah, they've got Tommy Shabbat, great young guy. He's like, they've got other pieces in their pipeline on defense. You got Brady Tkachuk, you got Timmy Stützle, you got Norris, you got Pinto, you got lots of like young pieces. And you're like, but they also aren't strapped to a bunch of anchors. You're like, yeah, there's no other team that's in like a worse. I don't think there's any other team in the NHL that's in a worse spot than Vancouver. There's other teams that are like, ooh, in a year or two, we're going to be real stuck here. But those are teams that are in the top chunk of the league.
Yeah.
Where it's like Vegas and they're maxed out at the cap and they're like, ooh, injury and have to like play. But it's like, yeah, but you've been playing in like the conference finals every year. And you know what I mean? You're like, that's fine.
Yeah.
But to be a team that's been bad this whole time with nothing to show for it, you've had a stupid miracle playoff run that ultimately made things worse because it tricked them into thinking, well, I think we might be close. Idiots. So you've got no playoff success, you've got no prospects, and you've got no money to play with. You're like, okay, well, can't you just trade guys? Like, they've all got no profit.
Yeah.
You can't just trade Hamanuk and dump him. You can't just trade Myers and dump him. Like the guy OEL's got a no move or a full no trade. It's like all the guys you would want to move to like to a desperate to like Arizona. And you're like, just take him and we'll give you a second round pick. Please God. Like they can't, because they can just veto it. So it's like, why they didn't, I mean, because Benning was here. Like if Rutherford was brought in at the beginning of the season instead of Benning, I don't think they would have made that Garland and OEL move, because you just look at it and you go, okay, the Canucks aren't going to make the playoffs. If we just keep these bums for one more year, we'll be bad. We have our own first round pick. We're picking 9th overall in this draft. You pick someone, Gunther or whoever you want to pick. Cole Sillinger would have been a great choice. And you're like, hey, we'll just suffer this year. The Canucks would have another top 10 pick this year because you would have no OEL and with no real cap to like sign another defense. So you'd have like another bottom level defenseman. So it'd be Quinn Hughes, Tyler Myers, kind of like all those guys without OEL. And it's like, yeah, they'd be bad again this year. You'd have another top 10 pick, but then you would have Roussel, Erickson, and Beagle all expire this year. And you'd be like,
And
oh, we're clear out of 13 million in cap. We
does
can re-sign
Luongo
Besser.
clear this year? Or did he clear last year?
This year, I think he clears. This
So
year or
that's
next
an extra.
year?
So
An
that's
extra
an
3
extra
million
3.
there. Right? So you're like, hey, all of a sudden we're in a good spot. You could afford to re-sign JT Miller if you wanted. You shouldn't. But it's like, and then imagine you trade him for a haul. You're like, look at all of this cap space we have in the offseason. Look at what we can do. We have 2 top 10 draft picks that we've added to our haul. Maybe we can draft a really good young defensive prospect for the second time in 10 years. It was such a simple thing that they just had to not do, and they did it. And you're like, and now what are they going to do? And then I see idiots. I see these morons. They're like, I think this team's good. They win a few games. They beat some, like, we just had a string of games. We were playing mostly bad teams. There was a couple good teams thrown in there, yeah. But it's like, oh, we just beat the Rangers, yeah, on a back-to-back where they played their backup goalie. You're like, yeah, they had nothing. They came out flat the whole time. You're like, that's great. Do you think you'd beat them in a 7-game series? No.
Yeah.
Do you think you'd beat the Flames? Like, look at every team in the West. You're like, do you think the Canucks could beat the Avalanche in a 7-game series? No. The Blues? No. The Wild? No. The Knights? No. The Flames? No. Maybe the Oilers because their goalie's so bad. But like,
yeah,
who could the Canucks beat in a 7-game? I would pick the Ducks or the Kings to beat the Canucks over 7 games.
Yeah.
Right? Where it's like, yeah, John Gibson is also a really good goalie. You're like, and they've got some talent. It's like, I think they're better. They have a way better defense. Like, it's miles better than the Canucks. They just don't have like a Quinn Hughes. Josh Manson and Lindholm and Drysdale and Fowler. You're like, wow, that's pretty good.
Yeah, it's pretty solid.
You're like, oh, look at that top 4. All legitimate top 4 defensemen.
And they have a young franchise
Troy Terry,
right shot defenseman in Drysdale.
Yeah.
Which is like what every team wants.
Exactly.
And Canucks are our top right shot defenseman.
The Canucks have Quinn Hughes.
Myers.
Right? Yeah. That's it. On defense, and this is why the Canucks aren't. It's why if you had it flipped and they only had like one really great forward and some other okay ones kind of like split up, but their defense was what we have on offense, you'd be like, yeah, maybe they've got a shot because you've got Demko, who's great, and then you would have like a legitimate top pair and a really good third defenseman and like an okay fourth and like good bottom defenseman. If you like flipped the script, you'd be like, yeah, maybe they can grind it out and win 1-0, 2-1 games. But they don't. Their defense is actually really bad.
Yeah.
It's
terrible.
And that's why I don't buy any of the like, oh, well, I think we're competing and, oh, I think this and that. I think Rutherford is looking at the team going like, he's saying those things because it's going to it'll help drive value and make teams go like, oh, maybe they won't. Maybe they will just hold on to players. I will be shocked if by the trade deadline, the Canucks haven't moved out at least 3 players. I think JT Miller is gone. He doesn't want to be here. He says all the right things and whatever, but it's like he sees this team as bad. They have, Pettersson's good, Horvat's good, Garland's good, Podkolzin and Höglander are good young players, and Besser is good. So you have 4 top quality, top 6 players. Pettersson, Besser, or 5, I guess. Pettersson, Besser, Horvat, Garland, and Miller. You're like, that's solid.
Yeah.
You're like, well, who else do you have though? And you're like, Tanner Pearson? You're like, yeah, okay, I guess. Like, he's fine. You're like, Jason Dickinson has been terrible here. Tyler Mott, you're like, he's a 4th liner, but he's good. Sure. Like, Lamico looks good lately. You're like, that's what we're hanging our hat on here in the city? Is that Lamico looks good now? He's a 4th. And then like you hear people like, well, I don't want to trade Tyler Mott. He's like got an entry. Like, he's a bottom, like he's a grinder. If a team is going to give you a 3rd round pick, take it. You can sign him in the offseason. Like, if he really wants to be here, what are you doing?
No, that's a really good point.
it's like that's the word I don't like. I know they don't have a lot of expiring contracts this year to like get rid of, but it's like, yeah, if a team comes calling on Lamico, go for it. If a team comes calling on Mott, do it. Garland,
Yeah.
I get, has good value right now because his contract. Yeah, sure. Even like the only players, if I'm the Canucks, that I look at and be like, I'm not trading you, is Pedersen, is Hughes, is Demko. And then like probably like Podkolzin, because what are you going to get? Equal value,
I
like
would
kind of thing.
I was
So
gonna
there's no
say
point.
I would throw Podkolzin in there because he is a type of player. He's not gonna dazzle you with points. Like he's not that type of player. He's a
Mhm.
player that the Canucks haven't
I
had
agree.
since
And I don't
Burrows.
think,
So
yeah,
I would only throw like Podkolzin in there as well. But that's the only other like untouchable
I
that I
would
would.
put him in there as like a circumstantial thing where it's just like, you are not going to get more value. Like you're not going to
Mhm.
get 2 first-round picks for him. You're
Yeah.
not going to get like anything like that. It would be like an equal value deal. So you're like, what's the point? What's the point in us taking a first-round pick for Podkolzin? You're like, we spent a first round, a ninth overall or 12th overall pick, whatever it was,
Yeah.
on him. So why would we trade him? So it's like, but anybody else, yeah. If a team makes a great offer for Bo Horvat, take it.
Yeah.
I know he's the captain. I know that he's a really solid second line center, but his contract's coming up in 2 years. Is he going to resign here? Hopefully. But one of Horvat or Miller will get traded, and I would say it's like a 95% chance that it's Miller.
I think the higher value is Miller.
Definitely.
And like you've tweeted, he's going into the wrong side of 30 by the time his contract is gonna be like in the
When he
midst.
signs his new contract, he'll be 30 years old.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah,
And
maybe he has a few years left after that, but who knows?
yeah. And Horvat just might not have it right now. And he is a like valuable player to have on your team.
Mhm.
But if the deal is too good to pass up, then yeah, unfortunately you
Exactly.
have to.
Like Bo Horvat's like a 60-point guy, which is good.
Yeah.
Like it's a
And
solid second line, and
good in the
he's exactly he's a good captain.
good in the face off circle too, which is like underrated value to have in the team because
Mhm.
in the defensive zone, getting possession of the puck is like huge. So like it's good to have those players, but you can always find like a good face-off guy to just win a draw and get the fuck off the
Exactly.
ice.
Right. Some
So
fourth liner you pay $1
yeah,
million is what you're supposed to do. Yeah.
yeah. So
Not pay anybody on your fourth line more than 1 to 1.5 million.
yeah, no, that's exactly it. But lots of
Bonkers.
hopefully there's a decent amount of turnover that is
I want to come on for your trade deadline episode. That's what I want to do.
all right. I'll make that happen.
Mark it off.
I gotta guess. I gotta guess
Yeah.
now.
You don't have to
worry
look
about
for
it.
anybody.
Yeah,
Me,
I don't
I'm
have to
there.
worry about it.
Because it's March 21st, right?
Yes.
Yeah, good. I go to Mexico like 3 days later. So
What day of the week is that?
it's a Monday, the 21st of, oh, wait, no. Sorry. I'm looking at February. Oh, it's a Monday. It's a Monday.
Perfect.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Then I
Beauty.
won't have to worry about if we solely make it a trade deadline episode. I won't have to worry about anything breaking the day after. So
Exactly.
I don't have to worry about that because that's always a scare. It's always a
Always.
scare, baby.
Like, nuts.
Maybe we'll record on Tuesday so that if anything
Post
crazy,
deadline.
yeah,
Okay.
so that we can get at least a thing on everything. Hey guys, you just saw me playing a podcast with my guy Cory.
See how easy it is, everybody?
Trust me, it is not that easy.
Yeah.
Sometimes people
People bail.
bail like last minute and you're like, I don't know
Doing
what to
this
do.
one on my own.
Yeah, exactly. I've done on your own
Welcome
podcast.
to Jeb Side Heavy.
I've done a solo pod.
Mm-hmm.
It's tough talking to yourself for an hour.
Yeah, you got to go really ranty, I think.
Yeah, and that's what I did. That's what I tried to specify on. But folks, I think we should just get to it.
I think so too. We've been talking for a long time.
Yeah, we are doing a 23 and under player draft.
Yeah.
Me and Cory are going to alternate picks, and we are going to draft 6 forwards, 4D, and a goalie. No specific order. You can go in any order you want. You can pick any position you want, whatever.
Yep.
And we're just specifying it to wingers.
Okay.
But your center spots have to be centermen.
Deal.
But you don't have
I
to
marked
draft
them when I did my research, so I'm good.
You don't but the wingers you can draft 2 right wingers and throw them on there. That doesn't matter. But
left, right, D doesn't matter. Just D.
Exactly.
Sweet.
So, what do you pick, heads or tails?
Tails never failed.
Hey Siri, pick heads or tails.
One moment. It's tails.
Dang it. Cory
Tails never
wins.
fails, baby.
Cory wins. So, Mr. Cory, with the first
Yo.
overall pick in the 23 and under left side heavy draft, you are on the clock.
I am going with the most franchisable player, I think, on the list. I think it's the most important thing on a team, on an NHL team, if you're ever going to win a Stanley Cup, and that is having a number one defenseman. I'm taking Cale Makar.
Damn it. I was really
Yeah.
hoping you're going centerman and picking somewhere else. Dang it.
No, forwards are easier to find, bud.
I know. I know. Damn it.
Cale Makar.
Great
Off the
pick.
list. Your turn.
All right. So I'm in between two players here.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of solid defensemen here, but I think other than Cale Makar, they're all around the same level.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to go on left wing from the Carolina Hurricanes,
Solid.
Andrei Feshnikov. You know,
Great pick.
it blows my mind that he's only 21 years old
Mm-hmm.
and he has this much skill and size, and he just produces points, baby. So I went
Big, strong winger.
Yeah, so I went Andrei Svechnikov.
Solid choice. I mean, isn't how I would build a team, obviously. I think, you need your number one defenseman. And then after that, I think you need your number one center. And for that, I am going with Jack Hughes.
Great pick.
Jackie Hughes, I think, is he like the best center in hockey right now? Not yet, but he is a literal child.
Yeah.
And he's already looking very good.
He is. Yeah, he's
I think he's going to be like a legit star. That Devils team is like slow building, and they're close. They're legitimate goalie play away. If they can get like another defenseman to like pan out, if Ty Smith can be really good, then yeah.
Because
Jack Hughes, baby.
I think they can be on like the Detroit Anaheim level, whereas like
on that path.
Yeah, it's like it's really boiling. Like the pot is boiling a lot, and things can get dangerous. So you picked number one center, and I totally agree with that. And I'm in between two, but in this league, right shot defensemen are hard to come by these days. And this player brings size, grit, skill.
Does he?
Speed.
Amazing.
And I am going Moritz Seider.
Oh, very nice
the
pick.
right side.
The young man.
My defenseman. This guy is an absolute gamer, and he backs down from no competition. And he is going to be my number one defenseman, right shot, heavily valuable in this league. And yeah, Moritz Seider.
That's a great pick. That's a great time you just had with yourself. I love it for you. I am going to go with another defenseman, actually. I'm taking Rasmus Dahlin.
Ooh.
Yeah, he plays in Buffalo, so people don't think he's that good. But you tried playing in Buffalo.
People also forget that he played in Buffalo when he was 18, which is very... You don't see a defenseman come in and actually play their first year. They need time to... It's takes longer for a defenseman to adapt into the league than a forward. So it's rare seeing...
And especially because he came from overseas, right? So it's a different style they grow up playing. He's gotten better, I think, every year. And he's just 21 years old. And he's 6'3". He's 207. He's got some size, so he's not a small defenseman. And that's what we got. That's what's Dahlin.
Now,
nothing but upside on the kid.
With this one, I'm going to go after my number one center. And I really want to pick the hometown boy. But
you're not.
I'm going to string away from him. Guy. I am going...
I can sense it. I know who it's going to be.
He just won fastest skater at the NHL Skills.
If we know anything from Mason Raymond, that means you're very good.
And I think this guy has a lot of skill, speed, and I'm going Jordan Kyrou.
Jordan Kyrou? Oh, I thought you were going a different direction with that. No. That's nice. I like Jordan Kyrou. Yeah, the Blues.
I think he's a very skilled forward. And
definitely. Very skilled. I'm thrilled that he's so skilled,
Yeah. I can feel the sarcasm just coming off of your.
No, I think he's a solid player. You know, I don't think he's the right pick. That's all. I don't think he's the right pick. You know, I'm building a team. I'm building a franchise here, and I'm just thinking like, is this who I really want? Like, I don't know. Probably not. He's probably not that great. But then I think to myself like, who is great? And I'm looking at my list here, and I'm going, there's still tons of forwards for me to pick here, and I only have so many defensemen on the list. And this one, I'm going with a defenseman who, because let's face it, all the defensemen we're going to pick here are all offensively capable defensemen, right? So I'm going to go with a guy who, while he has no NHL experience yet, has proven himself among men, and that is Owen Power.
Owen Power.
Yeah, I think that Owen Power is a guy that you will be able to play, unlike a few of the defensemen on this list that we'll both end up picking for sure. You're not putting these guys on the PK a bunch, right? You're not protecting a 1-goal lead and putting some of these guys out on the ice. But Owen Power, he's a tower of power.
Yeah.
And I think that ceiling wise, getting a number one all around defenseman, much like a Moritz Seider, is Owen Power.
Great pick. I like that.
We're building back end out.
I'm going defenseman as well.
Because you're scared I'm going to take all the defense.
And no, a little bit. No, I'm going another big defenseman.
Yeah,
and
Tyler Myers.
Damn it! How'd you know? But I'm going with the left shot defenseman from Dallas Stars, Miro Heiskanen.
Miro Heiskanen. Solid choice. He's cute.
Better than that dumb Owen Power player.
I mean, if that's what you think, I guess.
I do think that.
For myself, I'm next. And at this point, I've got 4 defensemen left on my list. So I don't think I'll pick one yet. Because if I pick one, then it just means you cannot pick defenseman until the end. Because you can just get whoever you want. And I'm not an idiot. All right. So I'm going back to the forwards. I like that we're both ignoring goalie, by the way. I'm like, there's like 3 guys. There's 3 goalies that I could pick from, and they're all fairly, uneven playing field.
Yeah, that was my thing too. Our last picks are probably going to be goalie unless like everything's filled up. But
yeah, I am. I'm going with, and it's a tough call. I'm going with the center because I want to get one of. Actually, you know what? I'm not going to go with the center because there's 2 centers left that I enjoy here. And you can only take 1 center because it has to be a center. So I only need 1 left. So I'm going to go with a winger. And I am going to take from the Detroit Red Wings, Lucas Raymond. Again, just a boy, just a kid. But he is on track for quite a career in the NHL, if you ask me. If you... I don't know. He's got size. He's got skill. He's got everything you want. He has, I forgot what his point totals were. And I know that's right. He has 42 points in 53 games, and he's 19 years old. He's 5'11". He's 182 pounds. He's a normal sized NHLer. And you're like, great. He's great. And so good luck. Good luck with your next pick. I got one of the best young wingers.
There's a lot of players on here that I'd love on my team.
Of course.
And I'm not going to go defenseman.
Mm-hmm.
Or should I go defenseman? Do you know what? I'm going to go defenseman. I'm going to go Quinn Hughes. And I'm going to take a guy who has too much offensive upside to pass up.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a great quarterback on PK, and his defensive capabilities can only improve. And I think that despite his size, he's still good at
hockey.
Yeah, being a defenseman, like in his own defensive zone. And Quinn Hughes.
I'm with you, playa. I don't know why I said that.
Because for my last center spot, there's also 2 centermen that I'm like, I can't choose between right now. So I'll just go with what.
Go with your heart.
Yeah, I'll go with what you don't take.
Well, for me, my next pick, I'm going with a forward. I was surprised to find out that he's only just still under 23 and under because it feels like he's been around for a long time. And he's in the doghouse sometimes because he plays for John Tortorella. And I'm going with Patrick Laine.
Yeah, people do forget that he's.
People forget that he is, still kicking it as a young man, but he's an elite goal scorer.
Yeah,
is what he is. And there's only so many guys in the league that are like their shot is top notch, and he's one of those guys that can just score. And he's slowly learning how to back check and block a shot or something. So, but yeah, I think going with Patrick Laine.
good one.
Thank you. I was surprised
Kinda.
when I was looking up players. I was like, he's 23 and under still?
Yeah.
Like I could have sworn he was like 25 years old.
Yeah.
But no.
Yeah, I thought he was at least 24. I didn't think he was 23.
Right? There's a few guys where like they just had their birthday. I was like, January.
Adam Fox, his birthday was February 17th. Like if
he would have been my first pick.
If we did this 2 weeks ago, Adam Fox would have.
You wouldn't have had him because I would have had him.
Yeah, would have been.
I would have
gotten Cale Makar after.
Ugh,
so
gross.
Can't hit that.
He's a bum.
Are you going against your own player?
Well, in that case, I would have. Yeah, because you would have had him, so I would have had to call him that. Hindsight,
You're on the hot seat. Cancel Cory. But there's a lot of wingers on here.
A lot of Wang.
And all on the same level, but I'm going to pick this kid. And he has done very well in a semi-average, semi-decent Dallas team.
Oh,
and
I think I know.
He was in the Calder running. And if it wasn't for being hurt for a bit, he could have won it. Or if it wasn't for Carril's unbelievable season, this guy could have won it. And I'm picking Jason Robertson, who he's been a player who can be the main contributor to a line. He may not be able to carry a line because it's hard to carry a line when you're a winger, but he's been able to be the guy who can put the offense on his back and provide for players like Rupe Hintz, Pavelski, Jamie Benn, Tyler Seguin.
He puts the O in offense.
Yeah. So I'm picking Jason Robertson.
That's nice. He's a fine player. He's a good guy. He's a nice boy. For myself, I'm gonna snag another winger here, I think. And there will be players that are more skilled that will go on this list today. That maybe they're better skaters, maybe they're better scorers, maybe they're deft passers, But I think when you're trying to build a team, if you can get a guy who's got high-end NHL level skills and also can add sandpaper and grit and be that kind of guy that you don't really want to play against. He's got 37 points in 48 games this year. Pretty good. He's 22 years old. So, and that's Brady Tkachuk.
I had a feeling you were picking him.
That's right.
Tkachuk.
He's the kind of guy that you're like, of all the players that are on the list here that I put together, he's the only forward that is like that.
Very meat and potatoes type.
Right? So I have my first line built, and that's Lucas Raymond, Jack Hughes, and Brady Tkachuk. And you're like, Raymond's a great scorer. Hughes can score and pass. Tkachuk's a goal scorer and adds the physicality to, hang around with because Hughes is a little guy.
Yeah.
My line right there. That's my first Patrick Laine. Because he's on my second line. You get it.
This player I'm picking. And I'm indecisive between how I want to go this route. But this player is with Quinn Hughes on my second defensive pairing. And him being a bit smaller, you need a defenseman who's kind of good on both ends and can kind of provide the size that Quinn Hughes can't.
Yes.
I'm going he hasn't played in the NHL yet. But just like Owen Power, I like his potential and I like what he can bring to this league.
I think I know who it is.
I want you to predict who I'm picking.
Jake Sanderson.
That's exactly who I'm going with. Jake Sanderson. I'm keeping it in Ottawa. He's very good on both ends of the ice, and he can provide the size and toughness. I'm going Sanderson.
I'm very smart. I don't know what to tell you. That's all 4 defensemen for you, if I'm not mistaken.
No, it's not, and I like my.
That was only your
defensemen.
3rd defenseman?
No, I said it is my. It
Oh,
is
that
all
is
my.
you're
Yeah.
correct. Okay, perfect. I don't have to pick a defenseman now. Excellent for me. Excellent for me. I keep getting to going on the forward train. And there's still 2 centers that I'm happy to have either. I'm down to wingers here. And, I'm looking, I got Line as like a pure goal scorer, right? Snipey McSniperson. So there's, a couple, I got 3 wingers left on my list that I'm kind of humming and hawing between. And, one has been solid his whole career, despite where he plays. The other one has looked great as a rookie. And the other one, he hasn't been exactly what the goods were sold on yet. When you're wondering, is that his fault? Is it something else? Who knows? But for me personally, I am going to go with Matthew Boldy.
Ooh.
Matt Boldy. Actually, am I? Yeah, I'm going to. I'm gonna stick with it. I'm gonna stick with it. That's what I'm going for. I think that he's got 18 points in his first 19 NHL games. Like, he's lighting it up. He has 8 goals already in his NHL career. He is a goal scorer. Him and Line on that line. Either one of the centers that are left here are both amazing with the puck. So just feeding it to those guys. Boldy also, 6'2", 200 pounds. So he's got the size. Liney's like 6'3" or 6'4". It's a big dude. Also like 210, 220. So like, size doesn't matter. We're bullying your team. We're bullying your little forwards.
Well, okay. I am going to go goal scorer and skill.
Sure.
Short Kings unite. Cole Caulfield on the right wing.
Oh, you went with the tiny baby boy.
Yeah, Cole Caulfield, I think in a better market than Montreal. Or not market, better team than Montreal.
Great market.
Yeah, it's
might be the best one.
Yeah, it's not what I'm saying. I meant a better team.
They don't care about hockey there.
Yeah, better situation.
Yeah.
And Cole Caulfield, since the coaching change and just because I love players getting sent down to the A, kind of like with Hoglander. I think it's, especially when they played in the NHL and then get sent down, I think it's viewed as more of a good thing than a bad thing, because it gives them a chance to regain their confidence, play on the top line instead of getting their minutes deducted and like playing on the third line in the NHL. It's not what it's not like it's not what you draft. You didn't draft Caulfield to be your third line player. You drafted him to be your first line player. Let him gain the confidence. Whatever. Came back and he's been lighting it up ever since. I think the shot's there. I think the skill's there. Just the size is always a question, but that's always been a narrative I've been against, because you've seen short players succeed in the past. So I think Caulfield.
He's got the best short player ever trying to coach him up now. So
exactly.
There you go, Marty.
Short Kings unite. So
Cole Caulfield didn't make my list.
No?
I saw him like the dip, and I'm like, is he going to be streaky? Is he going to be a guy that like has the shot but like doesn't have enough? So if like he loses a little bit of confidence in the shot for like a month, is he going to be a guy that can still contribute, where you're like, I don't know why he's not the fastest, he's not doesn't have the best puck, you know what I mean? Where it's like he's got the shot though. Where I'm like, at least like Line A is like a big guy where you're like, he can at least, you can put him down. Like, what are you going to play Cole Caulfield on the fourth line? You're like, that's not good. No one can get him the puck, and he can't forecheck very well. But that's fine. I like him. He's a nice guy.
Talking about consistency in skating, and you drafted Line A?
Yeah, man. He's a big boy. I can put him anywhere. I can put him on the third line if I need to. And he's also an elite goal scorer. So I'm like, hey, I'll take elite goal scorer with size. And he's been in the league for like 3 or 4 years and has proven. Do I need to pull up his DB page for you so I can just explain to you really quickly how good Patrick Laine is? This year, he has 36 points in 34 games. Pretty good. Last year, down year. That was that first year with Tortorella where he was like putting them up and then down and then scratched and then whatever. And you're like, that's not great. But when he was in Winnipeg, He had 63 points. He had 50 points, a 30-goal season, a 44-goal season, a 36-goal season, a 28-goal season. You guys,
I don't doubt he's a good goal scorer. He's just, you brought up streaky, and he's one of the streakiest players to ever play in the NHL. That's all I'm saying.
can you be that streaky if you had 36 goals, 44 goals? Or like
He
so
had-
he
he
went
had a-
3 games without a goal,
He had
and
a
then he
tw-
scored a goal.
he had a 28 goal month and then didn't score for like 40 games.
Yeah, and I blame the coach.
That was on Winnipeg, not
Yeah, I also
Tortorella.
blame Paul Maurice. Also
But I'm just
bad
saying.
coach.
But I'm just saying. I'm
no,
not
hey, and
blaming.
that's all I'm saying is I'm just saying Cole Caulfield, great ceiling. I'm not saying he's not can't be a great player in the NHL, and it's not because of his size that he put on the list. I'm just saying he hasn't had a great season. Yeah, he's been good for the last 2 weeks, sure, but I'm saying Patrick Laine has proven that both players was Cole Caulfield 20 years old,
Something like that.
right? Patrick Laine is like 23 years old, so he's 3 years older, and yet he has 330-goal seasons. So I mean, if Cole Caulfield for the next 3 years has 30-goal seasons or more, if he puts up 40 goals, then it's like, yeah, I'm sure, maybe you can have him on your team instead. But at this point, I'll take the guy who's only 23 years old and has been a legitimate first line quality player for most of that time.
Which is fair.
That's all. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
Like I said, I'm not going against my point that he's an elite goal scorer. I'm just saying he's one of the streakiest players to ever play.
He can be, yeah. He's not Ovechkin.
That's all I'm
Ovechkin
saying.
was too old for me to put on the list.
That's all I'm saying is that he's.
Could we do best 34 and above year players?
I got Ovechkin. Damn it. Okay, I guess my
I
next
got
pick
Crosby.
is Chara. Chara.
Yeah. All right. We got 3 players to go here. I only need a center, a defenseman, and a goalie. I believe you also need a center, a defenseman, and a goalie.
No, I need a center, winger, and a goalie.
Oh, you have all your defensemen. That's right. Okay, well, I'll let you decide between the 2 centers that I think we're both obviously between here.
I think so.
Yeah, I have a third center on the list, but I don't think you're picking him. And I'm not going to pick him between the other 2. So I'm going to go with a defenseman, and I'm looking at my team, and I got Makar and Dahlin. You're like, solid. Dahlin's more the all-around guy. Makar is like the offense. Both can do whatever. Power looks like an all-around guy, but beside him, I'm going to put a guy that can be all offense instead of more defense. I had 3 guys left here. I had Jakub Tikrin. I'm not going to go with him. I had Mikhail Sergachev. I'm not going to go with him. I'm going to go with Jamie Drysdale.
Okay.
I think purely I'm trying to look at who could play off each other. And I think that Drysdale would be a more fitting partner for Owen Power in the long run. In the short term, I'd put him with Sergachev because he's been around the block for a few years. But that's what I'm going with. My 14.
That's bad scouting by me. I thought Chikrin was 24.
Nah, fam. He will be. He's 23 currently.
Yeah, he's end of March, 23.
Mm-hmm.
Damn it. Well, it's a good pick. I like Drysdale. It was between Sanderson and Drysdale for me.
And you wanted to go with the
and I picked
more defensive
and just like bigger defenseman because he's
exactly
Quinn Hughes.
That's why Power and Drysdale, Quinn Hughes and Sanderson. I get it. It makes sense.
It does make sense.
Are you going to go with a winger or a center? Or a goalie?
I don't know. You know what? I'll mix it up and go goalie here.
Love it. Who are you taking?
This guy has been, I feel, amongst younger goalies, kind of slept on before this year.
Mm-hmm.
This year he's 12-7, has 204 goals against average and a 926 save percentage with 2 shutouts. And he has a career winning percentage, a 1.87 goals against average and around a 914 save percentage. Jeremy Sweyman. Jeremy Sweyman. I think Spencer Knight, he's had a bit of a down year. I don't doubt that he's going to be a great goalie, but I like Sweyman. I think he's proven because Boston's defense hasn't been the best this year. And I think Sweyman in front of a below average defense, and he can still perform like this. What can he do with a good defense?
That's fair.
And I think this season isn't a fluke because his career numbers carry that. and still has a career winning percentage. Although the sample size isn't the biggest, but all these goalies sample sizes aren't going to be the biggest because
they're all 23 and under.
yeah, you don't see a goalie come in till they're around like 24-ish, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Jeremy Sweyman, I'm confident in my pick. There's two other goalies I was between, but I'm confident with my pick, Swayman. I think he should be an untouchable for Boston. I don't think they should get rid of him. So yeah, that's my pick. Judge me all you want, but I like it.
I'm not. I wasn't expecting him. He wasn't. I had 3 goalies just for fun listed, and he was not one of the 3. I'll go goalie next. I had Carter Hart listed as a goalie, so maybe he bounces back.
I had him listed too.
And then I have Spencer Knight listed. And the guy who I think I'm going to go with, he has just been great this year on a team that is just like all right. And Spencer Knight's the obvious pick, I think, for both of us. And I think we're both just being fun here and not picking him because, like people long term still think he's going to be the best. But his numbers when he's played this year, I know he's 20, but they haven't been great. And Florida's a really good team. So you're like, were they just having bad nights with you, or is it whatever? So I'm going to go with the guy that this year has a .923 save percentage. He's 17-6-1 on the year. He has a .225 goals against average. He is just 23 years old. He plays for the Dallas Stars. His name's Jake Letendre. I'm pretty sure that's how you say his last name. I've never actually heard it. Ottinger? Either way, that's who I'm going with. I like that. It's funny because I've heard of him for a long time and never really paid attention. I know he was like a good junior player and in World Juniors, I think he was pretty good. Or I've heard of him for a long time. Yeah.
Do you remember when US
he was a first round pick from the Stars? You're like, okay.
Do you remember they played the outdoor game in the World Juniors?
Yeah.
And US wore the Buffalo Bills inspired jerseys?
Yes.
Ottinger was the goalie that year. When Brady Tkachuk was there, Sanderson and stuff.
See, that's where it's I know it's swimming around in my head, but I don't pay a ton of attention to the Stars.
Yeah.
And then when I was looking up young goalies, I was like, wait a minute, this guy's doing this well on a Stars team that's just they've been they're a good team, but they're not amazing.
That was my thing with Swayman as well, because Boston's defense, outside of McAvoy, isn't it's kind of it's kind of sus.
Brandon Carlo?
Yeah. And Boston's been kind of underwhelming this year. You can't really lie. And Swayman's numbers are good despite that. So I'm if he gets a good.
I like it. I like the surprise pick, man. I didn't see it coming.
If he gets a good decor in front of him, he can only go up, really.
Right. All right. You got 2 picks left, a center and a winger.
I'm going to leave our centers to the last pick.
I'm going. All right. I'm taking the center.
So you get to go first. Man, there's a lot of players here that I really want to go with, but I'm really in between. And I think, who do I have it? I got Svetch, Robertson, Caulfield. This player brings speed, and I'm still not doubting his potential. I think he's still going to be good. I'm going to go Alexis Lafreniere.
That was who I was thinking about over Boldy for my last winger. I made a trade for him in my fantasy hockey league.
I was between him and Stützle.
Timmy Stützle, yeah.
I was between them, but I think Lafreniere brings a little bit more playmaking into his game than Stützle.
He's a bigger boy.
Yeah, that's kind of what I thought. And if he's playing on the line with Caulfield, maybe he can kind of conjure up different strategies.
Fair. I need a center.
Yeah.
It's between 2 centers, obviously. We both know who. It's Trevor Zegras and Elias Pettersson.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the hole I have. In my second line, I've got Line and Boldy slotted in there. Both are not the best skaters, right? Not the best foot speed between them. They're not terrible. They're average. So that was the determining factor on who I wanted to put there. So I went with Trevor Zegras because, something happens poorly in the offensive zone, need a guy to get back. It's going to be him.
Yeah.
Pettersson's he's not a bad skater. Don't get me wrong. I don't think he's a poor skater, but it's like not his strength. And I think Zegras, one, it's a strength, and two, he's a wizard with the puck.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going with the American. So you can have the Swede.
Yeah, I'm happy with Pedersen. I wasn't gonna be unhappy with either pick.
That's why we both left
PD or
it.
Zegers. What I like about Pedersen is that he's very good in the defensive zone. And my prediction is I think he's gonna win a Selke one day because I truly think that he's very smart in the defensive zone. I think he's good at like stick checking people, and yeah, he's like paper thin, but have you seen those reverse hits? I mean, the physicality is coming, baby, and his playmaking, and yeah, his skating isn't amazing, but I think he can create some sort of separation a bit. So I like our picks. I like our teams, man. So I got Svech, Kyrie, Robertson, Lafreniere, Petey, Caulfield, with Heiskin Insider, Hughes, and Sanderson, with Jeremy Sweyman backing up. What do you got?
I have a top 6 of Lucas Raymond, Jack Hughes, Brady Tkachuk, Patrick Laine, Trevor Zegras, Matt Boldy. Defense, got Cale Makar, Rasmus Dahlin, Owen Power, and Jamie Drysdale, and Jake the Otter Ottinger for the goalie. I think there's tons of upside, obviously, on this team. We've anchored it, you know. The old man on the team is Patrick Laine, which is wild. But yeah, there was 2 players on my list that I didn't for forwards that didn't get picked, and it was Anton Lundell for the Panthers.
Have a great year.
And then Clayton Keller.
Yeah.
Was a guy where I was like, you know, but I went Boldy because I went younger.
Another player I was thinking of was Kirby Doc.
Yeah, I don't think he's shown enough.
Yeah, he just hasn't shown enough. That was my thing. But yeah. I still think he could be a really great player. And Dylan Cousins.
Yeah, he's the guy that just didn't make the cut for me. I get it. He's he's one of the next few.
Yeah, I think he's like a step down from Brady. Like he doesn't have as much meat and potatoes to him, but Dylan Cousins can still be like a physical player when it comes to it.
There was some forwards, that I had like when I was just firing down names and then like putting them over. Marty Neckis.
Yeah.
For the Canes, Seth Jarvis, Nick Suzuki, Robert Thomas, Nico Hischier, Arthur Kaliev.
Robert Thomas, one of my favorite players now because he's the exact same age as me, July 2nd, 1999.
Cute. And the last guy on my list, Pierre-Luc Dubois.
Yeah, I have him too.
But I was like, you know what? Nah, I left all those guys off and went with all the other guys.
Yeah.
I like it. You have to post these and see who thinks has the better team.
I will, for sure. But
excellent.
Cory, before I head off, this is a very important on this day in sports history.
Oh.
And we are going to just leave it to the one. 12 years ago on this day, Sidney Crosby scores the golden goal.
Oh, is today the golden goal game?
Yeah.
Iggy!
Yeah. One of the greatest sports moments of all time.
That's those old like Canadian history, whatever, like old timey commercial things. That's one of them.
Yeah.
That's one of the greatest moments in Canadian history for sure.
Where were you when that goal was scored?
I was at Sam's Pub. Me and my mom and dad, we went. I was like, I want to watch this with my fam. So me and my parents went, and we sat down. Bar was packed.
Yeah.
And it was so tense in that overtime, like so like quiet, and just like, and then just a huge eruption. Scores the goal. It was great. It was wild.
I was in my basement down here, and Parise scored the goal to tie it up. My dad just walked outside.
Yeah.
Walked around the block. We're like, oh, Dad's doing it again.
Yeah.
And then when Crosby scored that goal, oh, man.
Right?
It was
so
unbelievable.
Great.
It was awesome.
Man, you need the NHL to get back into the Olympics.
I know, man. I was honestly like heartbroken, but like I understood why they didn't go this year.
But for sure.
But I was heartbroken. I was like, never be able to see Stamkos in the Olympics.
We also need an Olympics that's closer to our time zone again. Like we need it like even 8 hours ahead, I guess would be fine. Like in Europe, where you're like, I guess because I can still watch it, but like China, you're like, what am I getting up at 4 a.m. to
Yeah.
watch this game? You're like, it takes because you can't like you're not in a group, you're not out at a thing, you're
Yeah,
not.
because it was when it was in Sochi, we watched the gold medal game against Sweden at like it was like 4 or 5 in the morning when puck drop was. Well, that was really weird, guys. Cory's Zoom ended up shutting off, so if the kind of flow to this all kind of went out of the window, it sure as hell did. But it was a great episode overall. I hope you guys enjoyed the listen. Be sure to follow Cory. Let me grab his socials really quick here, but he is on Instagram at Cory _ Letendre, Letendre. You can follow him for all sorts of tweets about the Canucks, and they also have a podcast called the Snacktastic Voyage, and you can follow them on Twitter at SnacktasticPod, and then on Instagram, let me get them again here, at SnacktasticPod as well. So be sure to give them a follow, Snacktastic Pod. Listen to their podcast, Snacktastic Voyage, wherever you get your podcasts. And as for myself, you can follow me on Instagram at Jevin.Lefave, on Twitter at JevinLefave. Find everything for the show on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at LeftSideHeavy_. And subscribe to the YouTube channel.